Welcome to a special Art Talk. I'm Laura Womack. My art committee co-chair, Mary Flamer, and I will take you on a tour of the show. We're excited to be back at the mill after being online last year. We have 95 framed pieces, 20 sculptures, and about 260 portfolio pieces. Join us as we tell you a bit more about the show. As you know, this show doesn't happen automatically. Thanks to the many dedicated volunteers, we're able to have both an online and an in-person show. Let's start with a quick video, a sneak peek behind the scenes. Enjoy.
The Phillips Mill Art Exhibition provides a wonderful opportunity for you to purchase work of artists that have a local as well as a national reputation. Some of their pieces are located in the Michener Museum, for example.
We have 3 categories of art in the Phillips Mill Juried show: framed, sculpture, and portfolio.
You'll see around you the framed pieces which have been juried and have the artist's name, the artwork's name, as well as the price. The sculptured pieces also went through a juried process and selected based upon their significance.
There's a vast variety of works in portfolio, something for every art lover. Every year, the Art Committee selects an artist to be recognized as the honored artist. This year, the committee selected sculptor George Antonison. George is an internationally recognized artist. His work, The Rape of Justice, debuts at Phillips Mill this year. To learn more about George and about his work, be sure to check out our website, phillipsmill.org. This is an image you're probably familiar with. It's Winter Shadows by Francisco Silva. It was selected as the signature image for the 92nd show. It'll be on display and is available for purchase. Thanks to the generous support of our benefactors and Phillips Mill Community Association, we're able to award our artists 16 prizes totaling about $9,000. We've asked our award winners to say a few words about their works. Take a listen.
This is Leslie Schlegel. My pencil drawing is stuck in the past, and I can tell you a little bit about where the inspiration for this picture came from. Every day, my husband and I walk our two dogs down to and across. We have a covered bridge about a quarter of a mile down from our house, and also there is a historic mill. So we go across the bridge, and there's an old farmhouse there. We've been going up there, almost every day we walk past this. And one day I just noticed they parked an old car in front of the barn. It just begged to be acknowledged. It's like the composition was perfect. It was beautiful. That was the first inspiration for this. A little bit about my background, though, that also had inspired me for this was when I was in art school in the 70s, I had taken a photography class and we did black and white photos. And I went around, I had local pictures of people, places, and things, and I stored them in what we used to call a reference morgue. Back then they didn't have the internet where you could look up pictures and find things. You had to get it all yourself. This reference morgue has been wonderful to me because I'm such a collector. I never throw anything out, and now I have all these wonderful pictures of people, places, and things that a lot of them are gone now, and I'm happy that I have this rich inventory of inspiration for me. I think it's important to record the world around you because it's it's always changing, And I love history in the past. My scene has already changed. Now when I go up past the bridge, they've already put more old cars in front of the one that I had seen there. So I'm happy that I've had the opportunity to get that snapshot in history, tell the story of what used to be there.
Hello, my name is Tricia Zimick, and I'm here today to talk about my sculpture, Diligence. Diligence was created after I was inspired by visiting Siena, Italy, and Meissen, Germany. This is where I found the Sins and Virtues illustrated in fresco and fell madly in love with porcelain in Meissen, Germany. I was inspired to create the entire series of Sins and Virtues, all 14 sculptures. This took several years to create, but as I finished Diligence, it was suddenly sold and had to be replaced. Thinking about Diligence once again, I thought of how I also love the gold leaf and how it would take patience and diligence to do so. So I chose this as my theme. So this method is called kintsugi. It's centuries old, invented by the Japanese, and it's basically the art of repairing. As the story goes, a Japanese shogun had a favorite tea bowl that was broken. So the usual method to repair it was to send it off to China and have it repaired there, where they did a so-so job, but basically they stapled it with metal staples. So when his favorite tea bowl came back, he was very upset, very displeased, and ordered his own craftsman to do the job. We don't know exactly why the craftsman chose gold, but he chose gold. It certainly was beautiful. But for me, the story continues. I love this sculpture. I love the idea of renewal and repair. So I started a new series using this sculpture as a mender and a maestro of endangered species. I'm very excited about this in this new direction because I've always been an animal advocate.
I'm Marcos Gago, and I would like to talk to you about my artwork titled Juried Woods. It's an oil monotype on Reeves paper. I begin with a reference photo or photos, usually one that I've taken myself. I keep a photo reference library that is characterized by location or date. I use the photos as a general reference for composition, structure, color, and basic elements. I then do a sketch, adding and subtracting elements or reconfiguring the composition till I'm satisfied. For my monotypes, these are usually loose sketches, because when I start to actually paint on the plate, the experimentation and fun begins. It becomes an immersive process for me, and I purposely stray away from the original reference, letting the painting dictate what it needs and allowing each stroke and gesture to be recorded on the plate. Memory and feeling takes precedence over the reference material, and with color, the print begins to come alive. In a way, it's autobiographical in the sense that at this point in the painting, it's based more on my memory and perception of a particular time and place. Monotypes have become a regular addition to my practice, and I consider it both a painting and a print. It's the most satisfying and expressive of all my printing methods. I started doing monotypes about 5 or 6 years ago and fell in love with the process and with the surprise element of the final print. What you see on the plate is not always exactly what gets printed on the paper, and that's what I find exciting. I might do a few versions before I get the result that I'm after, learning from each pass and adjusting. I sometimes use the plate from a first pass through the press with residual ink still on it, and we work it to create a new print, basically creating a ghost print, but with added elements and color. In Juried Woods, I aim to capture that magical autumn day when the leaves begin to change, a day we can all conjure up walking through the woods on a crisp fall day.
Hi, my name is Helene Mazer, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my oil painting Forsythia. My inspiration for painting always comes from the visual stimulation in the world around me. I love being outdoors, and I always look for opportunities to see new places and old places in new ways. As a social person, I also thrive on painting with others. I have several plein air groups that I paint with who serve to inspire, help critique, provide connection when I go out there with them. The painting I have on the walls here at Phillips Mill is from a spectacular day last spring when I was invited to paint with the River Rats, a group run by Bob Barish through the Arts Bridge organization. They were headed to Carversville, Pennsylvania, a place I had never been before. It was a perfect day. When I parked my car and walked around, I was instantly attracted by the babbling stream reflecting shimmering yellow forsythia bushes framed by a tall, old stone building that rose to the sky in front of me. The design was there in my mind. The colors were muted but beautiful, except for the pop of yellow, and there was a bunch of trees for me to set up underneath to provide shade. The sounds of the water gurgling, other painters on the same bank to work alongside, and the promise of spring to come in that early blooming forsythia were the icing and the inspiration for me. I try to fully capture a sensory experience, not just the visual, which is never easy. I want others to be inspired when they look at my work and feel like they were standing next to me and taking it all in. There are so many challenges about plein air painting, from finding an inspiring spot to changing lighting conditions to exposure to everything around you, including the heat and the cold and the bugs and the noise, the terrain, the traffic. Occasionally, it all comes together in a way where I find myself in a perfect, peaceful, alive spot where my energy is fully flowing. The combination of all of those things make it a top 10 day. This painting was on one of those days.
Hi, my name is Glenn Harron. I'm an artist. I'm very honored to be included in the show at Phillips Mill. My painting, Museum Blue, has accepted and I believe won an award. I'm very grateful for that. A couple questions they asked me to answer. Is my inspiration, first thing, or to talk about my work. First thing that came to mind was Edward Hopper's quote, "If I could say it in words, why would I paint?" Basically, that's why I paint. I want my work to speak for itself, and I try not to interrupt. But that being said, I respond to my world in shapes and colors. I sketch, color, shapes. I start working. The work speaks, the color starts speaking for itself, and then I kind of just bear witness to my work. Thank you.
My name is Juan Bravo. I'm an artist living in Trenton, New Jersey. The title of the work that was selected is Dogwoods. Dogwoods is a mixed media work which incorporates a few techniques and styles which I've been working on over the last 2 years. First, the piece was done on a wooden panel, which allows me to build up the underpainting and surface using a variety of materials, which I've found work well for effects of depth and texture. The process I use begins with the wooden panel, which can then be painted with acrylic and covered in paper collage and other mixed media. For example, I like to use foil in my work, which can then be painted, distressed, or wrinkled to achieve various patterns. I sometimes use a layer of plaster over the paper and acrylic. The plaster allows me to really get into the piece, scrape and sand for depth and lighting effects. The combination of the paper, plaster, and wood panel makes a very resilient underpaint and surface which takes really well to building up many layers of thinned paint and can be built up also so that the final result has a lot of depth and tonality. For Dogwoods, I was able to use the underpaint to bring out almost like an etching the tree forms and trunks as well as the ground cover and shadows. The final paint layer consists of oil paint, which I thin and build up as needed so that the surface has that quality that I think only oil can really give to a painting. Dogwoods also represents the direction I have taken in my more abstract landscapes, which blurs form and simplifies the subject so that it is recognizable but also can be viewed as a more purely abstract work. For the composition and perspective of the piece, I wanted to provide a view which was from a place that was both in the woods but also looking into the woods from the outside, sort of an entrance into the canopy of dogwoods at a point where you weren't yet lost in the trees and could see the shape of the canopy, but also the individual trees. The light blue canopy itself is also a bit of a challenge, which I had to work through. I wanted a shape that suggested the form, but didn't want it to be too literal as far as the texture and detail of the leaves, for example. What worked in the end was a technique where I laid down a very thin, generous layer of the darker green, which I intentionally left very thin and watery. I then did a controlled pour of the blue, which could blend and swirl with the darker underpaint and give me the kind of form for the leaves that I wanted. I was able to control the pour to give the piece the perspective that I was looking for, and the effects of the border where the paint blended with the thin underpainting worked well in the end. I'm very grateful that the judges enjoyed the work and to be recognized in this way. It has been a great encouragement to me, and I hope to be able to share more of my work with you as I progress as an artist in the future. Thank you.
Hi, this is Janine Dunn-Wade, and my painting is called August Interior. I wish I'd named it August, so I'm just going to call it August instead of August Interior. I would love to first off say that I am so honored and thrilled to be part of the 92nd Phillips Mill show. I love to feel that small connection to the huge history of artists that abound in our area. And I'd like to thank all the people who have worked so hard to put this show together. I know it's a huge undertaking, so thank you all. The painting is primarily oil, but I started with some pastel pencils making a sketch, and I did let some of that show through in areas that I thought it was beneficial. And I did go back in at the same time I was working, sometimes when the painting was wet and sometimes when it had dried. So there are splashes of it in various sections. The inspiration behind this painting is that spot of yellow that's shining through the window. I was working on the setup, which you can think of as the first sketch of the painting. It takes so long to set it up. Each vessel and object in the setup needs to be just right, and you can spend hours and days getting it that way. But at one point in the setup, I looked and I saw this yellow shining through, and it was so bright and pretty. And the vase I bought in Mexico when I was on an art workshop, and I was pregnant with my fourth child. I was like 5 months, and I thought, boy, I better paint now if I'm going to get a chance for a while. So anyway, it has some personal meaning too. And there's two things I'd like to say is I love those Bonnard paintings when your eye is just roaming around all these beautiful different things and you go, oh, whoa, there's a dog. And I don't think anybody will actually know that that's the yellow vase. So I'm thrilled to get the opportunity to tell you what it is. And it kind of goes to what Fairfield Porter always said. He said that paintings should have a mystery, and not for the mystery's sake, but a mystery that's essential to reality. So I do love the element of a little bit of a mystery in the painting. Thanks so much. Enjoy the show.
My name is Dean F. Thomas. Title of my artwork is Barrow Bridge, 1921. The medium is color woodcut. First, we'd just like to thank the jurors of the 92nd Annual Phillips Mill Art Show for selecting my work. And I'll talk about the inspiration, the subject of this artwork. I was on my way to Phoenix Arts, just outside of Doylestown, to get some art supplies when I drove over this lonely little bridge on the road to the art center, and decided after I was done with my purchases, I would take a walk back to this cute little park that this bridge was set in to see if there was an image there. I got down to the bridge and got an angle on the bridge from the creek bed, and immediately was drawn to the character of the bridge, noting that this bridge was designed by another person. I started to see the bridge as a person with all of its age and character. I also liked the idea that it was autumn and the bridge was covered with maple trees. Lots of yellows and reds and rust tones surrounding the bridge. And I thought this would make a really good image for a print at some point. Not knowing at the time that it would be a color woodcut, I just thought maybe an engraving, possibly even a painting. Wasn't sure, but I knew there was something there. So this image, this color woodcut, is my 6th. I had 5 successful woodcuts before this one, and I decided I wanted an autumn scene, and that's when I thought about the bridge. It was almost 2 years after I had first seen the bridge, so of course I went back and revisited the bridge and got some information on it as far as like when it was built in 1921. That was basically the inspiration for that. Some of my early influences, I have to give credit to my printmaking professor, Dr. Herbert Appleson. Early 20th century printmakers, Lind Ward, Rockwell Kent, William S. Rice, Gustav Baumann, and let's not forget the Japanese woodcut printmakers as well.
Greetings, this is Yash Shigel. My oil painting, titled Lucinda, won the Crystal Springs Farm Award, graciously given by Kathy and Ted Fernberger at this year's Phillips Mill Juried Art Show. Hard to believe that the show is celebrating 92 years. I mean, that's quite amazing. The Phillips Mill show is a very important show to artists in our area. It has become a benchmark and a goal for artists to get into this show. I've been painting for over 45 years, and I still feel a sense of accomplishment when I get word that my painting got juried in. My painting Lucinda is a 20-inch by 20-inch painting of a cow standing at the side of a barn. I know that sounds a bit like a cliche. However, it does have a very contemporary and graphic composition, using the windows, doors, and roofline as compositional points of interest, combined with a very classical painting style that I use based on sfumato, a glazing technique that uses fine shading and soft transitions between colors and tones in order to achieve a dramatic and ethereal effect. This painting has, probably 20 to 30 very fine layers of paint. Lucinda the cow and part of the barn are bathed in light in contrast to the rest of the barn, which is draped in shadow to create the mood I was trying to achieve in this painting. I'd like to congratulate all of the artists who are participating in this year's show and to the Phillips Mill volunteers, sponsors, and supporters. I thank you.
I'm George Thompson, and my painting, Christian, is oil paint on stretched linen. I'm a longtime portrait and figure painter and am constantly on the lookout for great subjects. Christian worked in a bagel shop that my wife and I would frequent, and his presence and charisma and beauty was undeniable. I'm so lucky that he agreed to sit for my portrait painting sessions, and I had the pleasure of being able to paint him from life numerous times. His ability to project emotions and feelings beyond surface features actually led him to a career as a professional model. I'm so grateful to Christian for sitting for me and allowing me to photograph him as well. I hope I was successful in capturing just some of his magic.
My name is Jennifer Kish. I moved to Bucks County about 4 years ago. I grew up in Ohio, however, where my father, Richard Kish, was an artist and painted in oils and acrylics. He gave me my first lessons in drawing and painting, and I was quite a serious artist when I was in high school. But I also loved math, and even though 2 of my siblings went on to be artists, I decided to study mathematics and statistics at university. And for the last 35 years, I've been working as a statistician. But I felt a void in my life not doing anything creative. And so a few years ago, pretty much concurrent with my move to Bucks County, I decided to try painting again. My painting in the show is called A Small Pond. I first saw this view, or I should say a similar view, on a hike with my friend Louise. It was a beautiful, clear day, very high up in the hills, and it was one of the most tranquil places I think I've ever seen. There was no sound other than the wind in the grass, the wind rippling across the small pond. No other people. I couldn't see anyone as far as the eye could see. And that's what I tried to capture, the peace and the serenity and the expansiveness of the view. I've noticed that recently more and more of my paintings have been trying to capture this tranquility, a sign of the times we live in, I suppose.
My name is Tom Chesar, and the title of my painting is A Night Run Through Ringos, and the medium is acrylic. My inspiration for this painting goes back several years. I was walking my little dog in a park that we have here in Ringos, and it was cold and it was getting dark. It was close to the holidays, and a train filled with passengers. It was illuminated by warm, glowing interior lights. It passed by on the track, which was in the back of the park, but it was behind a row of trees that was partially obscuring my view of it. When we were walking, and my little dog is just the opposite of me. He hates trains, and he let it be known by a fit of barking. He would have made any dog proud, bigger or small. And he made such a ruckus that the passengers must have heard him, because they were looking down and out their windows. I was somewhat embarrassed having disturbed their time and looking at us. This scene remained on my mind, put it on a back burner for several years. I finally came to an idea last year, in fact, when I decided to place the scene on the same rail line that runs past our home. I painted it largely from memory. I included my own version of the passengers, which I really enjoyed doing, and I put them in the golden glow of the interior of the train showing through the windows. I was able to juxtapose the train against a cold, snow-blanketed night, which was under a full moon with the Sarona Mountains looming in the background. This is how the painting came to be. And there it is, Night Run Through Ringos.
This is John Schmidberger speaking about North Lubeck. Oil on canvas, 20 inches by 20 inches, which I submitted to the mill this year. My inspiration for this painting was really the remote area of Maine that I visited. I spent a lot of time in Maine, studied with an artist from Maine, Neil Welliver, and have been painting there, some every summer for 30 years. But I'd only recently discovered this more remote part of Maine, known as the Down East. And this is very, very far down east. It's just adjacent to Canada. In fact, the background of the painting behind the island in the middle ground is Campobello Island, Canada. I was there on a painting trip and was driving around, and I just happened upon that scene and was just very, very inspired by it, especially as that's further up the coast, the tides are more extreme, and large areas tend to empty out, so the topography is, you see what was underwater. Very interesting, perfect for painting.
Hello, my name is Margaret Simpson. The framed watercolor I submitted is called Canal Turtle. This scene was photographed in July at Washington's Crossing Park, where I walk weekly. It was used for reference. The painting depicts a large turtle submerged near clusters of broadleaf arrowhead plants. I enjoy spotting the turtle when I walk there. I used a glazing technique to create the transparency in the water. Glazing allows greater depth using underpainting. With many transparent layers of varying pigments, it creates the illusion of shadows and light and underwater sediment to show the habitat of the turtle. With watercolor, I start out light and build up color and darker shadows. I didn't use Frisket to mask out the water reflections. I drew them lightly in and painted around them with a finishing fill of a pale blue wash to reflect the sky. I show some movement in the water with ripples, leading the eye in somewhat of a circular pattern around the subject, the turtle. Since my reference was photographed at noon, it was very sunny. I attempted to capture that golden glow on the water around the greenery. I hope you enjoy viewing my painting.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Rubin Gary, and this work is titled Transformation. The body of it is made out of cast resin doilies and the base fabricated steel. I use several techniques to create this work. The body itself is made similar to a cast metal piece. I made a mother mold out of silicone and plaster off of a body, and then filled that mother mold with resin and doilies rather than the usual wax for a casting, and to continue on with the lost wax process. I look at this piece as a three-dimensional sketch, because inevitably I will produce another similar work out of cast metal. At this series, this work will be created from cast iron. Right now, it's already been cast and just waiting additional chasing and fabrication. The seat itself is fabricated steel. I used a machine to bend the steel and fabricated little rods in the corner to hold the structure. I wanted the seat itself to be rather slim and not take away too much from the body itself. If you have any other questions about my work, feel free to take a look at my website, jenniferrubin.com. Thank you for listening.
Please remember, for everyone's safety, we kindly ask that you wear a mask while inside the mill. If you forget, don't worry, we will have extra masks available at the door. We hope you've enjoyed this overview of the 92nd Annual Juried Art Show at Phillips Mill. The show will be open from 1 to 5 p.m. daily from September 25th through October 31st. Can't make it out to see it in person? There will also be an online version. Please go to our website at phillipsmill.org for the link. Looking forward to seeing you at the mill.